Masharaima. I'm Nawashahu from the Yawanawa peoples in Brazil and state of Acre, from the Shukuvana village.
And I am Wushouwunan Kesikbesek of the Schaghticoke First Nations peoples up in New York. And we're here to talk to you about the the work that we're doing in our communities to help mitigate climate change, to utilize our indigenous knowledge of our ancestors, the practices that we are doing in our villages and our communities to restore the damage that has been done and to work towards a better future for our next generations. One of the projects that we're working on is our Shukuvana village in Brazil, where we are working towards a sustainable regenerative community deep in the Amazon, where Nawashahu can expand on this.
O projeto na aldeia Shukuvana, ele fala de conexão, ele fala de preocupação com as futuras gerações. A aldeia Shukuvana, ela tem trabalhado para restaurar o nosso conhecimento, resgatar o nosso conhecimento tradicional. English is not my best to speak. I'm sorry. So in Shukuvana village, we are able to talk and to bring back our knowledge and bring back our culture, our language, and our ancestral knowledge. We work in the connection with the nature. We work with the forest, with the water, and all the animals.
So there we are doing agro-food forestry, bringing back our connection with our children to the land, to our language, to our understanding of how everything works together. Bringing back the biodiversity that has been removed through deforestation and farming practices that are more destructive to the water and to the environments. Bringing back our food systems. In New York, we are working towards reintroducing the foods and the medicines that have been removed through these destructive practices, through the charcoal industry, through the industrial revolution. All of our forests were completely wiped out, and what we're seeing now is the resilience of our Earth Mother. But we need to speed up that resilience. We need to bring back the foods and the seeds and the medicines that were once thriving here. We have to re-establish the fact that we are part of the ecosystem and that we need everything in the ecosystem in order to survive. And we also need to work with the plants and the animals because we are no more important than any one of the aspects of our environment. We are working towards restoring the biodiversity and using an indigenous knowledge for these practices. With the Schaghticoke land reclamation project, we're working to rematriate the indigenous lands that were taken from us, working with other communities to be able to allow us to get back to the jobs we were placed here to do, to teach our future generations the importance of our foods and our water and our air and how we're working and living in our environments as we know that our planet is one large ecosystem that is interconnected, and everything we do in our individual environments and our ecosystems that we live in, ultimately it will affect every other part of this interconnected balance of the planet. It's kind of restoring the balance that is needed for a healthy um, planet. And our mother, when she's sick, she it really shows how we're causing these sicknesses. When you have a biodiverse environment, it's less likely to succumb to its own sicknesses, like destructive funguses that will take out a whole plant species, or forest fires that ravage through thousands of acres of forests. When you have the biodiversity, it's way more resilient if to these problems that can occur. It also will help with cleaning our water, and how our water reacts to our environments. If we don't have if we're mining all the carbon from the ground, or the poisoning the water with the destructive practices, how are we filtering it back? How are we repairing the damage that we're doing to our living water? Are we filtering it and taking out its life? Are we taking away all the minerals and nutrients that we need to survive in the ecosystems that we live in? Or are we figuring out ways to naturally do this, to naturally repair the damage that's been done? And these are practices that we're working towards, using our indigenous knowledge to repair the damage that's been done, and doing it in a way that has worked for thousands of years, through our traditions and our understanding of who we are on this planet. And it's also about bringing our community back together, living for our community. Right now, we work for a corporation that generally doesn't even benefit where we are on this planet. We're working for corporations that don't directly benefit our communities, and generally have destructive practices. It's all part of being siloed and isolated away from our community. How are we working for our community? What are we doing to better enhance the interconnectedness of our communities with our future generations in mind? Because it's all about our future generations. It's not just about how much we can get today. That destructive practice is leading us down a road of fire where we might not have a future on this planet if we continue to go the direction that we're going. So keeping that next 7 generations in mind in everything that we do, and restoring the foods that we need in our environments, is not just about us, it's about the animals that live in these environments, and how we're remembering to be a part of our ecosystem and not separated from it. A lot of what we do is with our education in our village, in Shukuvana village, is the students will go to school for a portion of the day, but generally what we do with our youth is they're hands-on. They come out there, they're planting the foods, they're planting the seeds for the next generations. They're involved in every aspect of how we're living in our community. With our building our homes, we are thinking about how can we utilize the most sustainable ways of practice for building our homes and our structures in our village. We use on our home bashuba, and which is a tree that grows within 5 years. You can use it, but it also supplies seeds that are great for beadwork and crafting in a sustainable way. And it grows very well with the cacao and other plants in the environment, and they work together. Jarina leaves for roofing materials that grow very fast and also work very well with the environments that we live in, and very natural for our jungle habitat. And so these are practices that we are bringing back for our own people to be able to be more sustainable and regenerate a better future for our next generations. And how are we, some of the things that we're looking towards here in the US for our community here, we were able to acquire land in New York where we're planting and learning and teaching about how we're better living with the environment here, and bringing back the foods that were taken away, the medicines that were taken away, and what we need in our environments to actually adapt to our environments. When we talk about foods, are we talking about the farmer who, if the farmer dies, can no longer supply the food for our community? Or are we talking about a different way of farming? Are we forest farming where it leads to little to no human intervention to be able to have a sustainable resource for our future generations? These are things that we want for the future for our children. These are what we want for the future of the planet for everyone, and not have to worry about where our foods are coming from, and lead towards a more regenerative economy that is good for everyone. We are also working with other Indigenous communities around the world that are doing these great practices. We have communities in Hawaii who are restoring their food systems. We have community in Aotearoa, New Zealand, who are protecting our water, and restore. They've been able to maintain their language that really teaches us who we are on this planet. That we are directly related to the water, and we are directly related to the plants, and how we need to honor that, and how we need to recognize that this is a living, breathing planet, and we are just a part of it. Working with other tribes in our regions that can't grow certain things in their areas, but we can, so we can work on a more of a giving economy, more of a regenerative economy, and a natural economy that is able to trade and work together to be sustainable with each other, because we can't do this alone. We can't live in a bubble. We're not, our communities are not islands, and we need to work together locally and globally to fix this problem. So what are the problems that we're seeing? Here in New York, we suffer from the damage of land loss from conventional agriculture and industry, water pollution, and how it's affecting us, and how we're not able to drink from the lands that we live in, to eat from the lands that we live in, so we're no longer able to adapt to the environments and the ecosystems that we live in. And this leads to sicknesses and health issues and all that comes with it. When we eat from the land, when we drink from the land, we gain the immunities, we get all the metals, minerals, and nutrients that we need to adapt and survive in the environments that we are in. And this is crucial, to help us with being able to combat these sicknesses that come up, and also be as healthy as we possibly can. and be as healthy for our future generations as we possibly can. Um, you know, I think that um, if we look towards a vision of the future, and we look to what we're trying to achieve and what we're doing in our communities, is that we want to be sustainable, but in a way where we're moving forward. We're, when we say sustainability, we're sustaining one way, but I think what we need to do is become regenerative and restorative and move beyond sustainability. We need to uh, create a system where our social economic development is beneficial to our community first, and then becomes beneficial to all of our outlying communities and society around the world. And with the recognition that everything that we do in our ecosystems is interconnected with every other community around the world. And so we want to live in a future where nature and humans are not a separate topic, where we recognize that we are nature, that we are a part of nature, we are a part of everything, and we cannot have this conversation isolated. That when we are talking about nature, we are also talking about ourselves, and we are talking about ourselves, we are also talking about nature, because we are one. We are all related, you know. So for us, you know, in order to generate a regenerative economy that advances life rather than destroying it.